Hello there, welcome or welcome back to Beauty Bees. Long time no see on my end. I think this is the longest I've gone without posting a video since I started my channel, though I could be off on that. Anyway, doesn't really matter. Today we are doing my first update for Pan Those Eyeshadows 2023. I am using a somewhat modified version of the prompts list that Makeup with Lainey used last year for this project. So I've been working on 5 products at a time. My goal is to hit pan. If I do not hit pan, I think it's at the 4-month mark. If I've been consistently using that shadow, I am allowed to roll it out. Otherwise, I'm going to keep things in. And it sure looks like things are going to be lasting the full 4 months for me because, I mean, there are some shades that I've been using really consistently over the past month, and I have no visible progress on. So let's start with this from the Natasha Denona Ayana palette. I have been working on the shade Harlow, which is this light brown. And I mean, it looks like it has been used, but there is nothing even approaching a dip in this. Let me pull it up. I've been making tallies every time I use this. So I've used that shade 8 times. That doesn't sound like a ton, but I missed almost 2 weeks of wearing makeup this month because I had COVID. Firstly, I mean, I just wasn't in the mood to put on any makeup through much of that. But also, I really didn't want to somehow reinfect myself or contaminate my makeup. I really don't know if that's a way that the disease can be transferred or not, but I didn't want to be the test subject to find that out. So, add maybe 50 to 60% onto any of my numbers that I present, and you'll get kind of closer to what I might have gotten in a normal month. So, in that, looking at it that way, I would have gotten about 12 uses. But still, I think 8 uses is pretty good. It just isn't enough to show any progress whatsoever. I was also really good about using the other Natasha Denona shade that I have in this project. This is Flutter. This, I believe, I pulled in for a shadow that I'd never used before. And now I've used it 8 times, and it is lovely. I put some on this morning, but it's been 12 hours since I put on my makeup, so I don't know how much of it is left, but if there's any extra shiny areas on the inner half of my lid, that is Flutter doing its magic. By the way, if you ever see these Natasha Denona single shadows as Sephora point perks, they're 100 points usually, I think, or as one of those things that you can get gift with purchase by adding a code, I would strongly recommend them. These are like such nice sized samples. I mean, they are definitely smaller than the truly full-size Natasha Denona shades, but you will not go through these quickly at all. These are such a better deal than like a tiny skincare sample that you'll use 3 times. Okay, I told myself this was going to be a really quick update, so I need to get on with it. Next up, from my favorite palette, which is the ColourPop The Child palette, I chose to work on Right Hand Mando, which is this shade up here. I used it 3 times in the past month, and I mean, this one does look more used than either Flutter or Harlow did, but I'm still nowhere close to hitting pan. I'm actually quite a bit closer, I think, to hitting pan on Precious Cargo. Like, I have a dip there, not a big dip. I think it's actually showing up a bit bigger than it is in real life on camera. But, yeah. I only used it 3 times, so I can't exactly expect to see pan. Of course, I've used it more than that outside of the project, but 3 times since this project started. Nowhere close to pan. The shade that I was the worst about using was Cherry Stem from the ColourPop Cherry Crush palette. It is the bright pink palette. I chose to work on the most neutral shade in the palette because I thought that was the only one I had any chance whatsoever of hitting pan on. I've used it twice. Both times I used it in my crease, and I think one time I additionally brought it down to put all over my lid, and then I topped it off with something sort of sheer and shimmery. But yeah, no movement. It has gotten me to actually use this palette though. This is something that I never think to use, and I've used it more than the 2 times in the past month, and I've dipped into a few shades beyond Cherry Stem. I know that I've used Juicy Juicy, which is this purple shimmer shade. I've used Take a Bite, and I've used Cerise. So these 4 shades have definitely gotten used in the past month. And I think that this Sweet Like, yeah, it is called Sweet Like, this shimmery pink, I think I've also used that, which is good because I don't think I've used it for probably 2 or 3 months prior to this project beginning. And then the shade that I'm probably closest on is Mint Chip from Luxie. I am wearing this today, though again, it's been 12 hours since I put on my makeup. I have it all over my lid. I think it is super, super pretty. I've really been enjoying this month because it is such a versatile, sort of neutral but still interesting shade. I find that on my eyes, this shifts from the sort of light green shade that I think you mainly see in the pan to at some angles looking more pink, at some angles looking more blue, but it's always like really light and pretty, and it looks like sort of an interesting take on neutrals in all of its form. It's not super bold or crazy looking or in any way not appropriate for my office job. So really enjoying this, and I think you can see there is quite the dip going on. I think part of that is just that this is an indie shadow. It's not super, super tightly packed the way that like a Tarte shadow is. And when I wear it, I tend to use it over my entire lid. So I think I go through quite a bit every time I use it. Anyway, there are the 5 shadows that I had in. I think I'm going to bring in 1 extra shadow, just to make my life more difficult, because, if I wasn't making the progress I wanted to on 5 shadows, I'm sure I'll make better progress on 6, right? But I just want to keep this project interesting for myself, and I know that if I'm just working on these 5 shades for the next 3 months more, I'm going to be so sick of this project. And also, my updates aren't going to be interesting at all. So let's bring in 1 additional shade. I'm pulling a prompt. Let me update my function. So I'm just pulling 1 prompt, and the prompt that I've pulled is number 10, which is an everyday shadow. That's a really convenient prompt to pull. Let me go pick out a shadow, and I will be back in just a second. Okay, I made my selection. I picked Get Naked from Luxie Beauty. My reasoning behind that decision was Mint Chip is also from Luxie, and it is the shade that I have made the most progress on, so I thought maybe this would also show a nice dip relatively quickly. Additionally, I love a really light shade. I like using these all over my lid. I like using them in my inner corner. This is kind of on the extra shimmery side for this, but I also like using shades similar in tone, if not super similar in shine factor, up on my brow bone. So I thought this would be a fun one to bring in. I have swatched it next to the Natasha Denona Flutter shade, and they're looking very, very similar on camera. But in real life, I can see that this one has like this cool toned, it's really hard to place actually. It kind of looks purple, it kind of looks blue sheen to it, whereas the texture on the Natasha Denona one is more pronounced. It is not chunky, but it's definitely more textured than the Luxie one, which is completely smooth. And additionally, this one is a little bit more warm toned. This is closer to being a champagne, whereas this is like almost a blue toned white. So they aren't super similar. I think that this will be a nice addition to my set of eyeshadows. Definitely the kind of shade I could see myself using every day, and that should help me make progress. Thank goodness. All right, I think that about wraps things up. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you're doing Pan those eyeshadows, I would love to hear how it's going for you, or if you're doing another eyeshadow project, because I am amazed at the variety of different eyeshadow projects that have popped up over the last couple of years. It's been really fun to watch. Thank you again for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed, and I hope I see you guys in the next one. Bye!